pin it?
I prefer it on mobile over desktop.
Really? Because you can't even like keep tabs in mobile.
I'm a really simple phone user, so for like one tab is all I need.
What else about the phone version makes it better than the desktop version for you?
I like the fact that you can change the theme and you can change the icon. It has cute little animations.
At first, I like it. I really like the UI. I think it's pretty, and like design-wise, I like it. But then when I used it, I didn't like it as much because it was like Google Chrome, but more beautiful.
I have my own minor gripes too. The back button and address bar are too small and insignificant relative to their importance to surfing. But these are small things that wouldn't prevent me from switching. Would you switch to one?
I think so.
Still stick with Safari?
Yes.
Wow.
I'll try it out. I'm open to anything that will like make my life better.
Yeah, I can kind of, as of now, I have like fully switched to Arc. Yeah.
Whoa, that's crazy.
Yeah, it was really easy with Ultimate Recording that allows everything over. You just had to make an account, sync
Streamline design, I like in that.
I go where the wind takes me. I started using Safari full time because I cover Apple and only big updates to Safari last year with tab groups and their own. I'm glad I'm giving it a try thanks to this video. Does this mean it's committed to the current era? I don't know if you do it, but there are two niggling problems. Google and the money. Arc is built in Chromium, the free open source version of Google Chrome available for developers to build their own browsers. That means they all have the same engine and have the same base features available, making it easy for Chromers to switch over. Even as Microsoft, who dominated the browser space 10 years ago with Internet Explorer, has switched to their Chrome. Yes, it means that Google dominates in yet another layer of their web space. Chromium is open source, so even if you're not using Chrome, the web is still being optimized for it in other parts of Google's business. Like most other browsers, Arc is free. Free, with Google means monetizing their advertising and surveillance. But Arc makes a big deal about not monetizing data, so they're still going to be looking for
one way down and saying, hey, you're working with how do we make it so the best way to work together is in Arc, with Arc together? Kind of a way Figma and Notion and all these stuff. It's really great. It gives it away to explain together and does their company.
Exploring monetization strategies that break from the convention of us users being the product is laudable. But would you, pay for Arc?
Everything is
Depends on the price. Thanks for browsing through this MAC address. If
It's full defaulting. Apparently,
it's useless.
test it. Not to it.
Feed me for ages. I'm not ready yet.
I have no idea where my camera will focus, but it's not clear. No, it's a drawing. Find out. And yeah, you guessed it. No visuals.
This
Let's get right into it. No delay. New York lawmakers are debating background checks for 3D printers. Oh, and our headline topic, NVIDIA is no longer allowed to export RTX 4090s to China. How will they game without 4090s?
It's actually impossible.
I mean, they're gonna look back on their lives and think, how much of my life did I spend without ray tracing? That's an older reference, but come on.
It still checks out.
It still checks out, right? What else we got today?
Apple to potentially update phones while they're in their boxes still?
No, that is actually cool.
No, that's why.
And I actually really like it.
That means they can turn it on remotely.
Well, we'll talk about that later.
That's nuts.
We'll talk about that later.
I don't know what's going on with that. And Twitter's going to charge users. I don't know. I was told not to read the doc. I don't know what other topics are. I've been told there's like a lot of them.
Yeah, they're good.
I believe. Wow, this Donkey Kong game. We'll talk about that later.
All right.
I must wait.
Got a WAN show tonight, ladies and gentlemen.
It's gonna be great.
All right, be right back.
The show is brought to you today by Thorum, AG1, and Seasonic. At least I think that was Seasonic. The screen went away, and I was looking at something else. All right, why don't we jump right into our first topic? We're going to get through it pretty quick because it's not actually a big discussion one. It just kind of worked as a title. The U.S. has banned the export of RTX 4090s to China as part of their attempts to keep China behind in terms of technological savvy. It doesn't seem to be going that well based on that new Huawei phone that just came out. Have you been paying attention to that?
No.
So it's supposedly their first completely homegrown fabbed processor that's reasonably modern, and yeah, it's a little on the slower side compared to what you can get from the likes of Qualcomm or Apple right now, but it's not that bad. Like, it's, you know, if you think about that, they could clearly build guided missiles 10 years ago, and you look at this processor on this phone and go, well, it's a lot faster than phones from 10 years ago.
Yeah.
It's like if the U.S.'s goal is that they're not going to be able to build weaponry or whatever, then I think that's going great. The U.S. is increasing...
I think it's AI research, but yeah.
Well, AI is a big part of it right now, but in general, they're trying to put pressure on China and keep them behind the U.S. in terms of technological advancement, which I think that horse is kind of out of the paddock. Is it horses that come out of the paddock? It's something. The horse is bolted? Something like that. The barn door is open.
Sure.
The point is,
cat's out of the bag.
The U.S. is increasing. Why did you put a cat in a bag?
Not like.
What is wrong with you?
It's like a messenger bag.
Was it at least just one cat?
And it's open.
How many cats did you have in there?
It's just an easier way to carry.
What the
there's like 6. There's like 6. Only one of them got out of the bag.
The U.S. is increasing export restrictions on advanced AI chips to China, which will also limit exports to countries like Saudi Arabia, the UAE, and Vietnam, though China is the primary target of the policy. Companies will now require a special export license to ship NVIDIA A800s and H800 GPUs to China. There are variants of the A100 and H100, I think there's some typos in here, that NVIDIA modified. Oh, these are the variants of the A100 and H100 that NVIDIA modified to comply with export restrictions put in place last year. So those were intended to keep China from having access to the most advanced AI chips. Now they're basically going, yeah, no. The old rules left consumer graphics cards untouched, but the new rules also restrict sales of NVIDIA's RTX 4090. Vendors can apply for a special license to sell these GPUs, but it's not clear how likely the government is to grant them. Companies will also be required to inform the US government before selling chips below the restriction threshold. In August 2022, this is a big hit for NVIDIA. NVIDIA disclosed that it anticipated $400 million in quarterly sales, not annual sales, quarterly sales from China. So there's a couple main discussion points here. You know, one of them is this going to do anything? And I think I've made my feelings on it pretty clear. In the very, very, very short term, it might slow down some of China's AI progress.
I have a potential counter-argument to that.
But really?
Yeah.
You know what? I would love to hear it.
So maybe in regards to raw compute power, it will. But I think the policy wrestling that the American companies have to deal with will slow them down just as much or more.
Yeah, that's probably fair. Also, I am not convinced that we necessarily need a ton more hardware out there in the field to continue to develop AI in a meaningful way, if that makes sense to you. Like, yes, if you want to build a service that real customers are really using and refine things, for sure. But at the research level, I'm willing to bet that there are enough RTX whatever the crap's in China right now.
And I guarantee you they could poke through that firewall to access remote power if they needed to. Remote resources, I should say, if they needed to.
Yep.
Also, a lot of the models, like the Llama and all these other ones, they're all open anyways. Like, and no, maybe it's not the point of the sword, but they're pretty ridiculously good. I don't know. I don't think there's really any holding them back very much.
I mean,
personally.
Elijah from our who's our junior writer in the writing department and clearly has some research to do, asks, wouldn't NVIDIA just make a factory over there, or am I ignorant? So the restrictions are from the U.S. government on NVIDIA, a U.S. company headquartered in the U.S., that prevent NVIDIA from shipping advanced processors to China. Those processors are actually manufactured in Taiwan, which, depending who you ask, is or isn't part of China. But for the purposes of these regulations, Taiwan, it would not be part of China, which is a really kind of funny thing.
It's very interesting.
Because the U.S.'s stance is sort of like, we don't take a position on this. By the way,
Except
NVIDIA, you may not export chips to China that are manufactured in... You know what? We're not going to take a position on this.
Yeah.
So the U.S. government is sort of within their rights to restrict these exports, but also I think this raises some really interesting questions about, in general, the barriers that are being put up between international cooperation, where governments are stepping in, and especially the U.S. government, governments are stepping in and restricting companies' abilities to operate over borders internationally.
I can
I'm
simulcast
honestly
again.
not the right person to talk about that.
There's a lot of geopolitics there.
It's complicated.
There's one people have been talking about for a long time that neither of us are, in the right position to debate too much. But there's been this kind of assumption for a long time that there can be no real war because all the countries are too interconnected and rely on each other too much.
Excuse me.
There's some concerns that are far above my understanding, but yeah.
In other news, Jon Stewart's Apple TV Plus show, The Problem, has reportedly been canceled prior to its third season following creative differences between Stewart and leadership at Apple over how Stewart works with artificial intelligence and China. Things are getting complicated. Hey, Jon Stewart, if you want a home on float plane, we're ready. We're ready for you. I love Jon Stewart. Guy's real. The guy's real.
Yeah, what he did for the firefighters was super cool.
Yeah, the guy's real. All right, why don't we do another big topic? Man, should we court controversy or should we go with something safe?
Controversy first.
Let's do it.
Heat up and then cool down.
All right, you already saw the headline for this. New York lawmakers mandate background checks for 3D printers. I'm going to let you read the topic, and I'm just going to look at your face. He doesn't know about this yet. He's been completely disconnected this week, just busy doing other things.
Wild week, yeah.
I am so excited. Let's all watch Luke.
Oh boy, this isn't weird at all. Wow. Paint me. New York legislators have proposed a bill that would require a criminal background check to buy 3D printers that could be used to print any part of a firearm. This would likely include a vast majority of 3D printers commercially available. Yeah, pretty much all of them, including relatively cheap FDM printers. According to the bill as written, background checks could take up to 15 business days. Sale of these 3D printers would be prohibited to any user who has a conviction or outstanding warrant for a felony or serious crime. While many 3D printed guns require at least a few metal parts. Yeah, at least a couple, like a barrel. But anyway. At least a few metal parts for reliability and accuracy. There are some relatively weak printed guns that can be made entirely of plastic or wood. But anyways, let's skip past that. With the exception of the firing pin. However, I mean, there's ways around that too. However, these guns typically fall apart after only a few uses. Yeah. Okay.
Now to be clear, okay, look, Luke's not some kind of like 2FA diehard,
No.
like nothing else matters, but also I
No.
think has a pretty realistic view of
There's
of what kind of legislation could meaningfully impact firearm safety, and it's honestly, it's not the kind of thing that we're going to get into in great detail on the show, even though it's something that we both have thoughts on and have talked to each other about privately. But what I knew for sure is that you were going to get a huge kick out of this, because this will do absolutely nothing.
That is why.
It will
That is
serve
why.
absolutely no purpose other than to make it inconvenient to get a 3D printer, and probably only marginally so.
Luke, Mythbusters wood cannon. Look up the recent assassination of the Japanese.
Look, a handheld flippin' crossbow is in a lot of ways more dangerous than a firearm because of how
Absolutely can be.
stealthily it can be used. Those are super illegal here, but you can totally make one without a 3D printer. Like it's bizarre to me that they are basically, it's like banning scissors and tape. Like, I'm sorry, you can't have tape because you might use it to bind somebody. Sure, you could, and no, this is not one of those, what's it called, a straw man argument or whatever? I forget exactly.
Single shot shotguns with metal pipes. Yeah, this is my point. Like,
I'm not taking this to an absurd level just to demonstrate that this is a slippery thing. This is actually ridiculous.
if you want to make stuff, you can make stuff. You don't need a 3D printer.
You can fire a bullet without a gun.
Yeah.
You literally don't even need one. Not accurate.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. So.
I mean,
someone in chat, CNC machines. Yeah, like what? Where? This
Why
is
don't
my.
you ban bleach and ammonia because they can be used to make mustard gas?
Styrofoam.
Or gasoline and styrofoam.
Yeah, like
What? Sorry. Fellow anarchist cookbook reader?
just fell into the exact same one at the same time. Nice. Yeah, like I don't know. You can't. It's not. It's literally just gonna be annoying to people that want 3D prints.
And realistically, okay. Actually, I'm glad that you brought up the anarchist cookbook because
Which is literally not what happened.
yeah, well, you know, it's got all kinds of instructions for how to do things with fuel. I used gaslighting.
Oh my goodness.
So I'm glad you.
Not ready yet.
I thought it was pretty good.
I'm glad you brought up the anarchist cookbook because
yeah, sure.
the only reason that I ever downloaded it, the only reason I even became aware of it was because someone tried to ban it at some point when I was in high school.
Me too. I bet you we did. We probably downloaded the same file and very likely same day.
So it's pretty much just your classic Streisand effect, right?
Yeah.
All this talk about 3D printing guns, I'm not saying that it's going to change anything. Eventually, 3D printed guns will proliferate. They will be absolutely everywhere. You will be able to 3D print a sophisticated weapon with commodity hardware. I have no doubt whatsoever of that.
You're always going to have problems with
But
certain things.
trying to slow it down in this way is doing absolutely nothing other than sparking a conversation. I wouldn't be talking about this right now. if New York wasn't deciding to do background checks for I mean, it's not like there's some kind of biometric authentication. All you would have to do is recruit some low-level crony, you know, like organized criminals do, who doesn't have a record yet. Get them to do the dirty work, which is apparently going to the f***ing store and buying a f***ing 3D printer now. And then you can print as many guns as you want. Because it's not like they're even going to limit how many 3D printers you can buy. So you just roll up to freaking, I don't know, whatever stores they have in New York that sell 3D printers. Walk out with an armload of 3D printers.
What are you going to do with these? I don't know, sell stuff on Etsy.
Yeah, exactly. I prove I'm not.
Yeah.
So what's next? We're going to have chips and 3D printers that prevent them from printing, you know, firearms pieces like you have in printers that keep you from printing currency? There's no way. It's not realistic.
There's so many different ways, so many different forms.
I mean, they could, yeah, I mean, could it kind of AI it? I mean,
and
anything with a tube,
well, no. Yeah, really. I mean, that's what it would kind of, well, the tube is not, it's plastic, it'd be really bad.
Yeah, but it's technically possible.
For one, maybe. There's a lot of pressure.
I think you
I don't
could,
know enough about this.
I think
it just ends up being like this big. I don't know.
Yeah, band stepper motors, exactly. Thanks, Dan.
Yeah, there's so many other. This is clear, and this is one of the problems with a lot of gun laws. Is this is clearly made by someone who has no idea what they're talking about.
I mean, like, look, it's one of those things where, again, we're not going to get.
It's just going to do nothing and just be annoying.
We are realistically not going to get into the exact details of any of our stances, but one thing that Luke and I did talk about in a fair bit of detail is in Canada, they released a list of weapons that moved from not banned to banned. This is what, a year ago, 2 years ago?
I don't remember the exact timeline.
I can't remember when it happened, but basically, as far as either of us could tell, and Luke is far more knowledgeable about it than me, so take whatever I'm saying as just the vague recollections of something someone who actually knows anything told to them a long time ago. But as far as either of us could tell, most of the rationale appeared to be around the
scary.
Aesthetics
of
the
looks
weapons.
Spooky. So I went through an exercise of showing Linus all the things that were still on the market, which were significantly scarier.
Like, really scary.
Yeah.
Do you have any examples that
I'm not going to be able to bring it up right now,
Yeah,
but there's
that's okay.
one where it's a folding shotgun
Yeah.
that is going to be shorter than the length of your femur when folded,
Yeah.
and comes with a strapped-on femur mount.
Yeah.
So it just like
shotguns are fucking scary.
And a lot of the policymakers seem to not think so because they play like COD.
Like what? I mean, they're for ducks, right?
Yeah. It's like
no, they're for turning objects into ground meat. Against an unarmored target. Holy crap. The fact that we're... Oh, man. Yeah, anyway. So it's mostly the utter illogicality? Is that a word?
It's just constantly policymakers that have no idea what they're talking about, putting policy in that mostly just annoys people and doesn't really actually accomplish anything. I think this is super common with firearms. I'm not surprised that this one is similarly like, what? Someone in chat, I want a strap-on femur mount. Yeah, I'm not even saying anything about the stuff. I was just pointing out that like the way that certain laws are written, like that one shotgun in particular is able to skirt around certain Canadian laws because it meets certain very specific requirements. But like if you went into the nature of what the law is trying to accomplish, you would think that that thing should definitely not be allowed. But if you go into the technical specifics of how the law works, it is totally allowed. So it's like, this is weird. And there's a lot of firearms laws end up being that way, where you end up with like weird things going on, and oftentimes situations that are actually significantly more dangerous for the people that are trying to follow the laws properly, because it now puts them, the things that they were using to be more safe are now illegal. because again, people not knowing what they're talking about. Like it's a firearms law is a very weird realm, and this one's also weird because again, you can just have like a pipe.
Yeah, Shinzo Abe, this is posted in Floatplane chat, was killed by what? A piece of PVC,
is what I mentioned.
a 2x4, and a nail or something like that. Like it's that gun was very not a gun.
The article said
one shot
with it can be made entirely plastic with exception of the firing pin, and it's like except you can use
a piece of metal,
a nail.
Yeah,
like
had someone
most of the 3D printing stuff when it comes to firearms, as far as I've been able to observe, is to like make it so that they look cooler, because having a pipe and a plank of wood doesn't necessarily look that cool. Like it's not. I don't know.
And let's not forget, like, if refire rate's not a concern, people literally fabricated their own firearms in, like the 1800s or whatever. Like, if all you need to do is propel a ball bearing at high enough speed to penetrate a human body, that is not difficult to make on your own.
Stuff has been
without
done
3D
for
printers.
Very, very long time. It's like, I don't know, bruh. There's also, you can find videos of them online. There's like 3D printed firearms competitions. And it's mostly like, can your firearm make it through? Because they'll all like fall apart. And this is many years in.
Yeah.
I don't know.
Someone in Floatplane chat asked, would you let your kids 3D print a gun? No.
This is not the same. Oh. I'm not saying. All I'm saying is that this law will not change anything. That's all I'm saying. And you can tell by how it's written that the person making the law has no idea that that's true.
It's almost like when we're looking at, laws around right to repair or net neutrality, or the internet in general.
It's lawmakers making laws about things that they have no idea what.
No, I got it on. Can you not hear it, my friend?
Informing them about the things that they want them to know about.
I'm trying to figure out who's lobbying for this. Is this just kind of?
How you doing this evening, by the way? And thank you for resubscribing. 2 months away from a year.
General, but
crazy.
I think that even from that standpoint, like this again, it doesn't change anything. It just annoys 3D printer people. And honestly,
as someone that owns 3D printers, this isn't going to change anything. And thankfully, I don't live in New York.
Are they going to make you like hand them in?
And can I just bring up for a moment that New York is a really small state, which is very relevant here because nothing prevents you from crossing state lines into New York
with a 3D printer.
With a 3D printer. Like it's one of those wimpy eastern states back when everybody walked everywhere. Like
I'm imagining in my head someone with like a tarp in the back of their car covering up their like 3D printers as they drive into New York. I'm smuggling in 3D printers. New York gangsters going from like bootlegging to
GTO fan in Twitch chat being like, not really. New York City is small, but the state isn't. Brother. Yeah. We're from Canada. Anything I can drive across in like a few hours is small.
Yeah.
Oh man.
So yeah, I don't know. I think if anything, this is going to amplify 3D printed firearms because now people are, if they're going to attempt to ban it in any way, you're effectively communicating to people, whether or not this is true, you're communicating to people that this thing is effective and dangerous.
Yeah.
So now more bad actors will be interested in it. So
yeah. I'm just gonna help people out here a little bit. Okay.
Someone in Floatplane chat, you can 3D print firearms? Neat. Okay. It's like, oh.
This is New York State. There we go. So from the center, it is 5 hours out, basically. Okay, this is BC, where we live. From here to here to here.
He didn't even just include Vancouver Island.
Oh yeah, this island and this island is also part of it.
Yeah.
So just to give you some context, I'm not look. Okay, this is not a measuring contest, but ours is way bigger.
Ours is bigger.
which is why you don't want it to be a measuring contest. Look, there was bound to be a dick measuring contest I was going to win at some point. Just let me have this one.
You hurt me, sir. You can afford things that I cannot.